Welcome back to another League tier list video, and today we're diving into patch 25.7 and seeing what's changing and how it affects the meta. Last patch there were a ton of super strong champions rising through, so let's see what Riot have in store for us this time round. Starting off with the buffs first then, and here we've got changes to Brand, Ivern, Olaf, Shaco, Shen, Trundle and Volibear. Brand is getting his passive damage cap to non-epic monsters increased and his passive explosion damage to monsters increased too, in an attempt to revive him back in the jungle role, but without making him super broken like he was last time. Riot have said that they are continuously aiming to bring as many options in the jungle as possible, as it's still one of the most unpopular roles in the game. Surprise, surprise. Ivern is another jungler getting buffed, and he's getting his Q's root duration increased from 1.2 to 2 to 1.6 to 2 seconds, so overall a great improvement to his early ganking power. Olaf's E's cast time is being buffed to be faster at higher attack speed, which should help him out slightly in those clutch risky moments, which is what Olaf is all about. Shaco's passive AD ratio is going up from 25 to 30%, and his Q's bonus AD ratio is also increasing from 60 to 65%. Shen's Q now finally applies flat damage to turrets, so all the Shen mains around the world will be crying tears of joy for this one. Finally, his split pushing will be that little bit more effective. Trundle's E's slow is going up, as well as the cooldown being buffed too. And finally, to finish off the buffs, Volibear's empowered W's damage amp is getting buffed with some bonus AD too. On to the nerfs then, and here we have Darius, Gwen, Lilia, Lulu, and of course Neferi. Darius has been a bit of a problem to say the least in the jungle recently, so his base armor is coming down and his E's cooldown is getting nerfed by 2 seconds at each rank. Gwen's win rate shot up last patch too, so her Q's big snip base damage comes down slightly along with her W's resists. Lilia also saw great results after her buffs last patch, so her E's AP ratio is coming down from 60 to 50%. Lulu has been one of the best enchanters in the game all year so far, so it's time for another nerf, and this time it's to her Q's minimum and maximum damage and her W's cooldown. And finally there's Neferi, who's been dominating several roles in recent weeks after her pretty major changes last patch. Riot are nerfing her armor, HP, W's cooldown and passive monster mod too. Next up we've got the changes, and here we've got adjustments to Singed, Xerath, Yone and a ton for Yorick. Singed is getting some changes to his passive cooldown per target, his Q's per second AP ratio and his ultimate stats, overall giving him a touch more damage and a little less durability. Xerath is getting buffs to his Q's AP ratio and W's AP ratio and base damage. His E's base damage is coming down though, but his ultimate is getting a little bit less base damage, but 5% more AP ratio. Yone's passive crit damage modifier goes up from 90% to 100%, and this is what they changed for Yasuo a few patches ago, which is what made him so much stronger. We were pretty surprised Yone didn't get the same treatment last time round, but now he's getting it. He's definitely one you should watch out for. Finally, we have Yorick, who is getting an absolute ton of changes to his entire kit. Now, we aren't going to go into too much details here, as this will take all day, but feel free to pause the video if you're a Yorick main if you want to have a read through. Apart from champions then, we also have some changes to the Catalyst of Eons and Rod of Ages, as well as some pretty juicy buffs to Umbral Glaive, with its cost coming down and its AD going up at the expense of a longer passive cooldown. So get ready to see more Umbral Glaive Graves again. Aside from that, there's also more changes to the lane swap detection feature and the fountain and home guards. Well, let's get on to the tier list now then, and in the top lane S tier we have Aatrox, Camille, Darius, Fiora, Gwen, Aurelia, Kayle, Quinn, Riven, Urgot and Warwick. Yes, we have kept Gwen and Darius in the S tier despite their nerfs this patch, as they've just been way too strong over recent weeks to bring them down just yet. Unless of course we're wrong and their nerfs actually have a lot more impact than expected. We've also brought up some of the other buff champions like Shen and Yone to the A tier, and we definitely recommend keeping an eye out for Yone. The passive change could be massive, as Yasuo really did pop off when he got the same one. Yone is a very popular pick, so I'm sure you'll quickly see soon enough if he does end up being as strong as we think he might be with these changes. Other strong S tier picks this patch though include Fiora, who is definitely back at the top of her game. Then you've got reliable powerhouses like Aatrox and Camille, who continue to consistently grind out results across all ranks, and of course you've still got Riven doing the things Riven does best, as usual. Into the jungle next then, and in the S tier here we have Darius, Diana, Fiddlesticks, Gwen, Hecarim, Jarvan, Kindred, Neferi, Nunu, Viego and Warwick. Neferi moved into the jungle tier list last patch too, simply with just how broken she has been, so we're going to have to wait and see just how much her nerfs do make a difference, and reflect back a few days into the patch. Gwen also shot up the stats in recent weeks too, so her nerfs were expected, but are they really enough to bring her back down to reality? We aren't quite convinced for now. There really is a lot of choice in the S tier for the jungle right now though, with popular picks like Hecarim and Jarvan having some very impressive results, as well as one-trick picks like Fiddlesticks proving that they aren't to be underestimated. Over to the mid lane next then, and in the S tier here we have Ahri, Akshan, Anivia, Diana, Galio, Neferi, Swain, Syndra, Victor, Vladimir and Yasuo. Ahri has popped up again recently with her AP Bruiser build proving seriously strong based around Rod of Ages, which is also getting some positive changes this patch too. The truth is, Ahri doesn't actually really need as much damage as you might think, so she can build this bulkiness instead and just become even harder to take down. Swain's rim rate is also pretty crazy right now, especially towards lower ranks where he's just super hard to deal with, so if you haven't already played him recently, definitely give him a go. Aside from plenty of choice in the S tier, there's also so many options in the A tier too. Mel still has one of the highest ban rates in the game, and despite some underwhelming win rates, she's definitely still really strong in the right hands and in the right games. Then there's other popular fan favourites like Sylas, Zed, Katarina and Aurelia all here too. Okay, moving downstairs to the bot lane next then, and in the S tier we have Jhin, Jinx, Kai'Sa, Tristana and Yasuo. Kai'Sa's recent buffs have seen her return as a super consistent S tier pick to play across all ranks, especially in high elo where her pick rate is absolutely ridiculously high. She's the kind of AD carry that just slots into any team comp in any matchup and always has a way to come out on top. Tristana is easily one of the best AD carries you can play right now though, as she's been winning an absurd amount of games recently at every single rank. She's easy to play and you can definitely stomp certain lanes here without too much effort, especially with those aggressive support picks to go alongside her. The A tier in the bot lane here is packed full of mostly meta AD carries right now that just aren't quite as dominant as those in the S tier. There's not really the biggest divide between the S and A tiers here really though, just with some more situational picks rather than those that you can blind pick more often. Finally, let's have a look at supports then, and in the S tier we have Braum, Janna, Lulu, Nami, Rell, Soraka and Thresh. We're going to keep Lulu in the S tier again despite yet another round of nerfs just because of how consistent she's been all year, along with those other picks like Janna and Nami who also just proved that in solo queue there's simply not too many better options. Braum's still up there with the big guns too though, and I don't know about you guys, but I just love having this dude on my team, or even playing him myself. He is super useful with those passive stuns and just offers everything you need to add to all sorts of team comps. Plus, if you haven't tried Braum and Yasuo in the bot lane yet, you're definitely missing out. In general, the meta really hasn't changed too much here for a while now, with just minor buffs and nerfs over the last few patches, so it's pretty much more of the same for the time being. Elise does fall down from S to A and Yuumi moves up from B to A, but apart from a few other minor shifts like these ones, if you've been playing recently already, you'll probably know what to expect. And that brings us to the end of our patch rundown and tier list video all about patch 25.7. Don't forget to click the link below to see the tier list in full for yourself, as well as our high elo tier list there too. Thank you all for watching guys, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.